And I'll be there any second. Okay, well, good evening, everybody. It's Alex Chisnell here again, content director at the Festival of Enterprise, bringing an end to 2 weeks. So closing up with William Watkins, founder of Radnor Drinks. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Alex.
And whereabouts are you this evening? Are you in Wales?
I'm sitting in my little Welsh valley. Well, it's right on the English-Welsh border, and we're, it's a lovely part of the world.
Lovely. Well, thank you for joining us, and can see people joining us live as well. So thank you for everybody who's joined us for this last session. We've had a crazy busy day. We just had Piers Linney just under an hour ago. We had Startup Loans before that with John Behrman. We've had a really busy day and a busy 2 weeks. So appreciate you all. Be getting loads of messages on LinkedIn thanking us for putting this on, because normally, we'd be at Olympia, we'd be at the NEC putting on these events. So again, we've had to do that overused word, pivot during lockdown and switch a live events business to an online events business. And I think it's been a really big success going on all the messages that you sent to me. So appreciate that to everybody. As always, you can join in and enter the conversation. On the right-hand side of your screen, towards the bottom, you've got a chat function, so live chat, and below that, you've got questions. So just pop up your comments, pop in your questions. There are people posting up their LinkedIn profiles to connect, like you'll be doing in a normal event as well. So please feel free to do that. And we will come to your questions towards the end of my chat with William. So, founder of Radnor Drinks back in 1990 on the family farm in Paris, on the Welsh border.
Yeah, right, absolutely right.
And tell me, how many generations of your family had the farm before you decided in 1990 to start something new?
Well, here we were on this particular farm for 5 generations, or at least I was the 5th generation. And then not very far away, I mean, probably only about 10 miles away, that's where we'd sort of come from. So we weren't really great movers. We pretty well stuck in the same area for a long time. I can't tell you how long they were there. It was more or less, as far as we can look on the gravestones, it went back to about 1700.
Wow.
And after that, all the stone was chipped off, so you couldn't actually make out what dates they were.
Right.
So I've been around this area for a long time.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit about the farm. So you'd have what, cows and sheep, but
cows and sheep, and I was brought up very involved in the farm, and whenever you had a holiday, it was quite hard work out there on the farm. Sheep, cattle, pretty much as a normal mixed farm, really. I suppose we were farming about 500 acres. We owned about sort of 250, 300, something like that. Farmed it and rented some more land. So very traditional sort of farming background.
Yeah, and I've read a few things about the history. I've seen articles from the Wales Online. Again, people who've been watching this regularly will know I'm originally from Cardiff, so I still check that publication every day, specifically to look at the Welsh team selected for this Saturday against England, which we won't talk too much about, will we?
No, we've already had a little chat about that.
Yeah,
we're a little bit worried about it, if we're honest. Yeah,
a little bit worried. And yeah, for you, I read that you always wanted to be an entrepreneur. You actually did a dissertation at university on mineral water. Is that right?
I did, yeah. So so I went and did a degree in food marketing at Newcastle, and so I went there I left in 88, so I went there in 85, didn't I? And that, I suppose, that was a time, mineral water wasn't something you really saw anywhere, apart from you would see Perrier in a pub, if you remember back then. And actually the strange thing was you didn't even refer to it as a mineral water, you'd refer to it as a Perrier. So if you went into a bar in those days, you'd ask for a Perrier, maybe a slice of ice or whatever. There wasn't really plastic versions of water around at the time. You wouldn't have seen it in a garage or in a You wouldn't see bottled water in, in a supermarket, certainly. So it was, and but it was starting to grow. The other place you did see it at the time was you'd see it on board those little cup things that you peel off, couplets we call, and you'd get them boarded onto airlines. And of course, before the days of sort of EasyJet and Ryanair, pretty well every short-haul flight would present you with, an in-flight meal tray.
Yeah.
So it was a strange form of packaging, but there wasn't really bottles at the time, and that was about the only other place you saw packaged water.
And what was the first product that you came out with? Was it couplet with?
It was, yeah. So when I did the kind of dissertation at Newcastle, which was kind of part of the degree, which made up the sort of final year in my degree, I looked at the mineral water market at the time, and we kind of I looked at from a size and got all the Kantar data I could and what have you, and it just interested me. It was something that was new, that was coming through, and it kind of, I remember telling my grandfather, who was a really traditional farmer, about my quite interested in this sort of new water market, and he just couldn't understand it. He thought it was absolutely mad. It was no better than sort of trying to sell fresh air, he said to me.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah.
So it was a crazy time, really, that, not that long after, bottled water was appearing everywhere.
And, fast forward, decades later, taking on board your great-grandfather's point, and you produce what I've read, 350 million and turning over 50 million pounds business.
Round about, just under 50 million, and tis about 350 million units, mainly plastic bottles, but we also do cans, we do Tetra, which are the little cartons, and we do glass bottles as well. So we got quite a broad range of different packaging mediums, and of course, with that, we've added cans recently because there's been a lot of focus on plastic and environmental issues, and cans are quite well perceived quite well from that perspective.
Yeah. So it certainly proved there was a market fit then for your dissertation, and you've diversified from the farming in a major way.
Yeah, well, when I then came back, I kind of did start farming. It wasn't as if I did the dissertation to kind of. It was, in my mind at the time, kind of just a one-off project.
Right.
But I came back, and the one thing I really wanted to do was to come back to this part of the world, which was quite unusual back, because most of my friends were heading off to London and what have you. So I was really keen to get back here. I did. I came back and started farming, and after about a year, I realised that Dad was actually doing a pretty good job of the farming. It didn't actually. There wasn't really a need for me to be here. So he sort of. We had a borehole up in one of the fields that the cows used. Pumped out water and the cows drank, and he said, "Well, that's pretty good water up in the field." He said, "Why don't we? If you're looking for something to do, why don't you try and see if there's a way you could sell that?" So that's how it sort of came back. It was his suggestion, and I thought, well, yeah, I will. So we looked at it, and I thought, let's try that couplet route. And so we put we actually got a grant as well. We went for a farm diversification grant, and that was a government thing that they were doing at the time, and they were doing £50,000. They would give you 20. They would match fund you up to 50,000. So so basically they gave you 25 and you put 25 in yourself. And it was, I don't know whether the money came from Europe or where it came from, but anyway, it was a very small amount of seed capital, that, I think is a great example of how, a little bit of money in the right place can really, work wonders, And so I went, we used that money to do up an old barn where we could produce the product. And then we put a little couplet machine in, going back to the couplets for the airlines. We sort of put all the kit in. It was a second-hand machine, so it wasn't a very expensive one. Very low capital cost to get into, really, compared to bottling or anything else. And I basically packed a few boxes of it, put it in the back of a car, and drove down to Heathrow and Gatwick and started knocking on the doors of all the airline caterers.
Right. So I was going to say, is that how you got your first customers? Literally,
yeah, exactly. My first airline was actually, it was an airline caterer, but it was owned by SAS, Scandinavian Airlines, and they had a company called SAS Service Partner, and they had this lovely guy who's a Welshman called Roy Williams, who I think took pity on me. I remember him so well. He was the very first person who ever bought anything off me. And I don't know where he is now, but I owe that guy a beer, definitely. And he started taking the cups, and that meant I had to go down the following week to make another delivery to him.
Right.
So I had a little Vauxhall Cavalier, and so I load the boxes into the back of the Cavalier, take it down, do the drop to Roy Williams, and then go and see some other airline caterers while I was down there. And then I'd sort of come back. That would be sort of Monday and Tuesday sorted. Wednesday would be, pack some more boxes for the following week. And then Thursday and Friday was go and work back on the farm.
Oh, really?
And then, I got another customer, and that meant that, that took Thursday out as well. And then after a while, I had to turn around Dad and say, Dad, I'm afraid I'm going to have to sort of stop farming now. And that was it, and one by one we started getting Trust House 40 used to do quite a lot of airline catering. That was quite a big win at the time. And there was a company, they're not back now, they're called Portions, who kind of controlled a lot of online catering at the time. So we got in with them a little bit. So, we started developing the business, really.
And were you able to make it profitable quite quickly, given your overheads were relatively low?
Yeah, we were, because there was no one at the time doing these couplets in any great scale. So there was nobody who had any real better economies of scale than ourselves at the time. I mean, things have changed enormously in packaging water. You've really got to have economies of scale now. Yeah. But at that time, there was, I think, only two of us in the country making these couplets, and so that was fine. We were able to make it relatively profitable, but got lucky after that, because I got to hear that McDonald's did a cup of water in France, and they moved to, I don't know, probably had a couple of hundred stores in the UK at the time, and they wanted to introduce water onto their menu board. And they didn't, hadn't thought about it. Well, they might have thought about it, but they did a cup in France, and they thought that was the way they wanted to do it in Britain. But they didn't want to do it with a French brand. They wanted to do it with a UK one. And so I got to hear about that, and I went along and said, look, we're already doing these cups for the airlines. It's kind of pretty much the same thing we could do for you. Once again, got lucky. Met a lovely guy who was actually a farmer from Devon, and I remember doing the pitch to him, and he sort of listened to the pitch and then sort of said, "Tell me about the farm, and what sort of cows have you got? How many how many calves and how many sheep? And lots of goats." So he was so we kind of went into a trial with them, and then they took it national. And I actually went on to supply McDonald's for probably 9 or 10 years, something like that. They were a brilliant company. They were always they were a brilliant company to supply. Actually, I always look back. They kind of brought a lot of discipline to us as well, and made us sort of start looking at, if you're going to be a food supplier of any kind, you've got to make sure you've got good systems in place, and food safety has always got to be right up there. So yeah, from an early time, they kind of did make us, concentrate on the right areas, really.
And when you take on a contract like that, or with one of these bigger airlines, at the time, you hear so many stories of people, getting offered something like that and just going, yeah, we can do that. We can supply 10,000 of your, establishments with that, and then going back and thinking, right, how the hell do we do that?
Yeah, well,
did you have those systems in place, or?
100%. I mean, that was always the way. So it's kind of at the beginning of the meeting, you'd say, right, the answer is yes. Now give me the question. that was kind of the approach, So we were always looking, and in fact, that did happen so many times. They looked at the cups, McDonald's did, and said, look, we want to move to bottles. Can you do it? Yes. And then I went back and looked at, what that meant actually in terms of, putting machinery in it, etc. Yeah. So I think if you want to sort of be an entrepreneur, you've got to take that attitude more often than not. You've got to take every opportunity and try and develop it, and say yes, and then ask them what the question is.
I love that. And you mentioned luck, William, but how much, when you look back, do you think you were listening, you saw the opportunity, you heard the opportunity, and you acted on it rather than luck, or do you think?
Well, you do make your own luck, don't you? Yeah. But when I look back at those kind of years, those really beginning years, when the embryonic moments of the business, I think it was luck and a weird amount of sort of self-belief. When you're 25, I'm 55 now, but when you're 25, there's not the slightest sort of thought in your mind that you're going to fail or could fail. It's just you're gun ho going for it. Yeah. And it's a really powerful. Looking back at it, it's a really powerful energy, that is, because quite often that does get you over the line, and that does make things happen. And so I mean, sometimes I kind of think that as you get older, you get more cautious in many ways. And when you're at that part of your life, you are just, I just didn't conceive of it ever failing. It wasn't in my, it wasn't going to happen. Couldn't see in any way that it was going to fail. So it was luck. It was a bit of youthful energy. And I think, obviously I was lucky that we're in a marketplace that was exploding around us.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always easier to be in a sector that's growing. I mean, it just makes complete obvious sense, really. I mean, there are examples of companies that make businesses work even in declining sectors, but it's a damn sight easier if your overall sector is growing.
Yeah, and chatted to a few people over the years about this with regards to getting into the supermarkets, and interested to know then, for yourself, you've got airlines, you've got McDonald's. At what point do you then think, did you need the supermarkets, or again, was it like a chance conversation? Was it part of your strategy?
Well, I said that McDonald's went on for 10 years or so. I think it was about 2001 or so, and we actually lost them sort of overnight. Unfortunately, a kind of deal was done in Atlanta or wherever their base is with Nestle or Danone or one of those companies, right. And they sort of globally did a deal, and it wasn't, so we were out. And at that point, I don't know, we were probably turning over about 3 million, I think. And so it's been quite slow and steady growth, maybe a bit more. But they were probably 2/3 of it. And they were, and also in terms of the profit. So we took this incredible hit. You know, I mean, it
Yeah.
was desperate, really. And I remember thinking that, well, there's only two ways we're going to go forward from here. We're either just going to pack it up, or we're going to have to start looking at places like supermarkets, and that's going to mean kitting up and automating, and original point, really, making sure that you had the right kind of economies of scale. So that's the moment that we put our first fully automated bottling line in. Obviously, cups had gone pretty much by then, and the future was clear to us all.
Mm.
In the industry, it was going to be in plastic bottles. So we started really hitting at that point. Automation became and getting our cost base right down, and that meant we could approach the supermarket sensibly, knowing that their price expectations were really achievable to us.
And when you say, "Wow, that's a huge percentage of your business, isn't it?" I always remember a client of mine going years back when I was in the sports and fitness space, and a lady that telling me that her husband, had this huge business. All the kids were up in private school in London. She would come down to the second home down here in on the south coast in Poole and Dorset, and I remember telling me, amazing business, got one client, IKEA, been supplying IKEA for 30 years, amazing. And then literally I just got an email, on one Sunday night saying, sorry, husband lost the contract with IKEA, don't have a business, literally overnight.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And that was another thing I learned, that we had to make a business that was way broader and just rely. We've been in the comfort zone and just relied on that one piece of business really driving and we had to make it a much broader business, much safer. It was important to do that, for the business, but for the people who worked in the business as well. What we forget was that this is everyone's income and future.
Yeah.
So we had to make it safe for all of us working in the business. So having just one main customer wasn't a good model, and we had to kind of split it up, not just customer, but also between sectors, looking at different sectors. So and now we do a really broad, different number of areas, but retail is an important part of it. And certainly, when you're looking for volume, that's something that no one can quite deliver, quite like the supermarkets.
No, and did you find it a relatively straightforward process? Because having come, last 4 or 5 years, I've been working with Virgin Startup, Richard Branson's not for profit, and so many people want to start a business in the F&B space, and it's usually the questions we get asked when we do live events is how do I approach one of the supermarkets, and I'm always interested in your answer.
Well, it's a very slow process, and it tends to take a long time to get presenting and then going back, and it doesn't happen overnight, in all honesty. And that's what can quite often frustrate people wanting to get into supermarkets for the first time. And the other thing I'd say is that so much of supermarkets has moved towards own branded products. So back in the day, I suppose the 90s, if you'd walked down your average supermarket aisle, you would have probably found a lot of branded products compared to now. Now the supermarkets is very cleverly developed different ranges. They've got their essentials at the bottom, or the basics, or whatever. Then they have their best range at the top. They split it all up, and that's largely meant that in 1990 you walk down your average aisle. I don't know what the figure exactly would have been, but there would have been a lot of branded products. Now you take out your big five, so Britvic and Coke and Pepsi and so on, AG bars. There are very few sort of startup brands on the shelves. Very few, really.
Mm.
And it's incredibly difficult to get them there. And the other thing is, if they don't move when they do get there, they'll get delisted pretty darn quickly.
Yeah.
So you've got to have a strategy if you do not just. I think one of the things that the supermarket wants to see is what's your plan to make sure that this product is going to move off their shelf.
Yeah.
So just arriving with a beautiful product, even though it might be a beautiful product, is one thing. But a really well thought through strategy as to how that's going to move off their shelves, because you probably have got 9 months, 6 to 9 months to make it work.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And what do you think now? Like when you do see these, call them challenger brands now, don't they, coming through? Be that like you see like Ugly Drinks or Double Dutch Drinks or Dalston Soda. We've seen.
Oh, I think it's brilliant. I mean, one of the things about being in soft drinks is it's such a dynamic environment, and you've got these really, you call them challenger brands because they are, but they're brilliant brands.
Yeah.
And they're pushing the market in all different directions. And some of them come along, Alex, over the years I've sort of done soft drinks. Occasionally a product has come along that hasn't been a new product. It's actually been a new product that has created an entirely new category.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of, for example, Fever Tree recently has done it.
Yes.
Premiumizing mixers. But when Red Bull came along, nobody's seen an energy drink, and suddenly, there was an energy category. Everyone was doing it.
Yeah.
Even when smoothies came along, nobody had seen a smoothie, and Innocent came along. And the thing about that is if a challenger brand can sort of capture the market, then they get that sort of first mover advantage. It can be very powerful. It makes it, a very exciting sector to be sort of operating a business in. You've got to be kind of prepared to keep your eyes open, because there are ever so many. We mentioned some successful ones there, but there's, for every one of those, there's probably, 20 that have, fallen by the wayside. But so it's a dangerous game to play. I mean, you very often see an awful lot of these new trends sort of happening, or you did. This is quite interesting. You did within the M25, because prior to COVID, it was, and I hope it gets back to this, but that's where you saw the real churning of new ideas happening within the soft drinks market, and you saw, some really innovative ideas coming out, and that's why whenever I go to London, I just absolutely love dropping in on every newsagent and convenience store I can to see what their kind of soft drinks offer is, and you always see brilliant new products. Last time I was there, it was really all about CBD.
Yes,
and that's so typical of soft drinks, because a drink really is such a good carrier. If you want to put vitamins in, it's a good way of delivering it. CBD, you name it. You can come up with anything you like. It's a very good way to deliver a product or a vitamin or whatever, or a mineral.
Yeah, I just got sent some CBD drinks actually from Pure Earth, who like, I think it started out with like these water kefirs, which I'd never heard of. Again, like a probiotic drink, and then juices as well, and then now it's like a CBD shot as well.
Yeah,
so it's like, wow, I haven't seen those before.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will never stop. I mean, a new diet comes out, and you'll probably see a drink attached to it. A new film comes out, and there'll be a new cartoon character, and they're selling it. They're doing a bottle in the shape of some cartoon character for the kids. It's a very, very dynamic kind of sector to be in. And the other thing that's interesting is that you've kind of got to be watching what's happening. So here we are in soft drinks, but you can have ideas skip across categories quite a lot as well. So something happening over in snacks, especially in those FMCG sort of areas where they can sometimes hop across into your area. So, a good example was Levi Roots, when he did his great barbecue sauce, which is, it's a great sauce. I love it. But, it was a hop, skip, and a jump. It was suddenly you were seeing sausages with Levi Roots on, and it wasn't long before you saw a soft drink with Levi Roots on, and there is one now backed by AG Bars. So, it's interesting. You've got to kind of be aware not just about what's protein's another thing. Protein sort of suddenly started happening in all kinds of different sectors, and you're seeing it now coming into soft drinks. Quite a few challenges actually with protein in soft drinks, but if you can get over the technical challenges, it's another good category. So being aware of what's happening elsewhere is important.
And for you, in the amount of people that you now employ, which in the hundreds, I'd imagine.
Yeah, no, we're about, I think, in the factory here, we're about 180, something like that.
Okay, and do you, as part of your team, do they, you keep an eye on those innovations and you've tried over the years?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, we don't necessarily do it in a formal way. We will do, if somebody in our sales team, and we've got a great sales team, if anyone sees a new product, it's on the WhatsApp and it's in, straight back in. Yeah. So, we're all sets of eyes and ears, and most likely the partners or the wives are also going to be keeping their eyes open. The kids will come back with what they might have seen. So, we're looking all the time to see what is out there and what's changing.
And is that also the case? So I was chatting to one of the founders of Lush, Rowena Bird, last week, and she was saying, in regards to innovation, which we've just been, talking about now, the same for packaging and, sustainability is so big. And she was saying, when we just had a, simple bar of soap, and then would have to have, plastic around it, then it would go in like a cardboard box. Because now, we've had a ship come over from Portugal with Portuguese cork, and we're literally just putting the soap inside this, cork, and it's literally as simple as that. And that wouldn't have been the case 25 years ago when Lush started. Not a dissimilar time to you. And are you the same? Because I see like the Tetra Pak side of things.
Oh yeah, no. Look, I think the biggest thing facing our industry now is, without any question, making sure that we come up with the goods on the environmental side. And it's really important for us to get this right. I think it's quite interesting actually that when the sugar tax came along, Coke, being the biggest of all of the soft drinks companies, sort of tried to fight that, and they, for a short time, but they did, and actually, and so did a lot of the soft drinks industry. What we learned from that as an industry was that when the general public, and it wasn't just Coke that did that, but a lot of people did. But when the general public and the media are onto something, there's no stopping it.
Yeah.
And so we all, with the sugar tax, accepted it in the end. We went back and reformulated our drinks, and actually they're fine. In fact, what we learned was that people were drinking way too sweet drinks. They're way sweeter than they needed to actually be. So the same thing has happened now with, not long after that had hardly gone away, and we were into the environmental issue. And very quickly within the industry, we all recognised this. It wasn't Coke immediately came out and said, right, we're going to tackle this and do the right thing. We did. Everyone in our trade association did. There was absolutely unanimous decision on it. And so what we're trying to do is get a deposit return scheme in, which will mean that you pay 20, as a consumer, you'll pay 20p, and you'll redeem that at anywhere, and so we'll get all of that packaging material back in to kind of a closed loop system. And we should see, I mean, they've got these systems elsewhere. So Norway have got it, Germany have got a very good system. And they're recovering something like 90, exactly, I don't know, it was well up in the 90%, 97 or 8% of all plastic is being recovered back into the system and recycled.
So it's working, yeah.
And so if we get this right, by sort of 2023, it should be coming in. And I would think that maybe not the first year, but within 2 or 3 years, we should be well up in the 90% of recovering our packaging material. But you're actually right. Have done, so plastic is a big part of what we do. But obviously, Tetra is a very sustainable packaging format. And we, so we've gone into that because it gives the consumer options, as to how they want to. In fact, we've just started doing cans, as I said, and we're putting water into cans. And there are those people. I mean, the thing about aluminium is it's recyclable forever.
Yeah.
So that it is a very good format to put your drinks in. And so we like to give the consumers really the option of how they want to buy the drinks from us.
Yeah, it makes sense. I interviewed before Josh White, one of the founders of Canna Water, with the black and white labeling, who seemed to be doing pre-COVID very well, and then just took a massive hit. He said, I spoke to him a couple of months into lockdown, and massive struggle.
Yeah, well, I'm afraid COVID has thrown the cards up in the air for all of us, and it is absolutely random how they're falling down. Some of us are in the right well, for us, we're in some of the right sectors. Some of the sectors we sell into have completely gone. They sort of vanished. Other areas have, suddenly come out of the woodwork and doing quite well. As a general rule, Tetra, for example, has done quite well during it because a lot of things have gone towards packed lunches and, trying to keep things in a handed over box for meals at hotel. So that's actually amazed us. It's done quite well. Other areas, if you're selling into pubs, you've had a very, very tricky time. Restaurants, obviously, there was quite a long period you couldn't sell anything at all. So it's been, and it's been too late to suddenly change direction overnight. You pretty well are in the sectors you were in, so it's been very difficult to respond that quickly to it. But I mean, one thing it has taught us is that even for us, and I've got to say that I was a skeptic, and some of our sales guys started saying, well, why don't we have a go with this Amazon and online selling? And I've always felt that soft drinks were a bit of a bulky, heavy product that maybe didn't suit, on the online platform terribly well.
Yeah.
My goodness, I've been wrong,
Really?
Yeah, because people really will, buy soft drinks. I thought it was mainly sort of iPods and things they bought. iPods don't exist anymore, I know that. But the iPhones and things. But no, I mean, soft drinks, online is a developing format, getting better all the time.
Yeah. No, I've spoken to a few people with that kind of direct to consumer route where it has worked. They pivoted that business, during lockdown to do that. And one of the questions we got asked to position to you was, have you trialed different formats, different drinks, and they haven't worked? In that personal experience, I worked with Virgin Atlantic for many years, and I remember being at the launch of Virgin Cola with Richard Branson, and that's probably the biggest one I can remember. But have you ever trialed things like a cola or a smoothie?
Well, Cola is so gripped by the biggest company in the world, isn't it? But I remember so well that launch, and it came out in a silver bottle, didn't it?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
It was in a silver bottle, and it was a really good product. It was, It was a great product, and it was. I thought it was going to do really well,
Mm,
actually, and it obviously had the power of Virgin behind it, all the branding, whatever.
yeah.
But it just showed you, there are some areas that didn't, the powers of some of the. I mean, I often use this phrase, and um, we are really, because there's such enormous corporate giants in our sector. We are like mice trying to pick, and that's kind of the analogy. I think is quite good because these enormous monsters that, I mean, you can easily move quicker than them, but if you get stepped on, you're dead. And I think that's where, suddenly Coke saw Virgin as a real threat because of their,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
they moved, Coke and Pepsi moved heaven and earth to make sure it didn't get off the ground probably.
Yeah.
But it was a good product, and I remember seeing it and thinking, yeah, that's really gonna work. But who am I to say? Because I remember the first time seeing Red Bull and thinking that'll never work. Look at it now.
That's a hell of a
Um,
brand now, isn't it? Yeah, I remember with Virgin, or reading about it afterwards with like the Virgin Cola, and just hearing, like Coca Cola just making sure that there was literally no space on any supermarket shelf that was available to actually put those products that Virgin Cola were making, and they just squeezed them out of the
yeah,
market.
well, that was it, and they had the money, and they'll probably do that now still, but I know they would have seen Virgin as a major threat. So, but
Yeah.
out in Germany, there's a very good two brothers, I think, and they've come up with a fantastic code that um, really is challenging Coke.
Okay.
So it can happen. Never say never.
Mm.
A lot of things, I think, it's weird. It's timing. A lot of products might be very good products, but it's also about getting that timing absolutely bang on right and having the right marketing kind of packaging around it as well. Nowadays, obviously, a
Mm.
strong social media input and all the rest of it, but it's kind of timing. I think with getting the products right. Sometimes is you can just go a little early and it doesn't quite hit the right spot, and then the very same product 6 months later could,
Yeah.
or 12 months later, could just be bang on the money.
Mm. Some more questions that are coming. Jonathan, head of user acquisition at CLYX, says, do you think bottled water is a product Generation Z are still going to buy? All of the data says declining in that segment. If so, what would be your 10-year plan? Good question.
Well, my 10-year plan is not to do too much water because it's probably the the least profitable sector of the soft drinks. So currently, we're probably doing
Oh,
about 15% of what we do is pure water,
right.
and the rest is anything from a soft drink to a mixer to a juice. Um,
Mm.
but what's happened what you were seeing in bottled water was a really pretty steady growth year on year. It was always massively skewed by a hot summer. We'd see figures go through the roof, but there was seeing growth of sort of 7 to 10%, something of that order, for the last sort of 10 years probably. I think that you are going to still see. I mean, especially if we deal, it's critical to us that we deal with this environmental issue. If we deal with that properly, then I see no reason why we shouldn't return to good levels of growth. And not just do it properly, we need to do it and get the trust of the British consumer in doing so, so that they feel that, yeah, it's a responsible thing, because there is a growing number of people, I'm afraid, who feel that buying a bottle of plastic at the moment is an irresponsible thing to do. And
Yeah.
what we need to make sure is that they can see that that just goes back into the packaging, we recycle it, and it comes back out as a bottle. And then I don't think there's any reason that anyone can have why it's wrong to have it.
Yeah. Tom says Fritz Cola is the German
Fritz Cola,
company.
yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
I don't know that. Okay. Interesting.
I
Another
nearly said
question.
Fritz, but that was started up by two friends, I think. Ask Tom
Right.
that.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah. I think we might even have a comment straight back in. Red Bull even made a cola too. I didn't know
Yeah, they
that.
did.
Huh. Tom, software engineer from First Principles, asks, I know that you have invested in robotic palletizers. What additional automation would you like to have in your factory?
Well, robots are incredible things. We started buying them 3 or 4 years ago, and I had no idea how much of a difference they can make to your factory. It's critical to us that automation is at the top, and it means we can produce at least cost. Now, obviously, what that also often, or people often say, well, that means that you have less people. That means that you get rid of people. In fact, the and to some extent that might be true for some companies, but what it's meant for us is that it's meant we've got more business, we've grown, and we've had to retain the same number of people. So our
Right.
workforce has sort of remained pretty steady. But the only way I see it is that if you don't adopt these new fantastic, not just robots, but all kinds of automation around the factory. The way we do all our cleaning and processing, instead of standing there with a hand valve on a tank and making sure we're cleaning it for 10 minutes, we just press a button now and lots of valves switch over and the whole thing's automatic. And it's much more efficient. It's much quicker. You're much more sure that it's been done properly, and it means that you can go out and be more competitive. And when you can be more competitive, you can win more work. So I think there will be industries where it actually has a negative effect on employment rates, but in our industry, it's kind of, or in our business, it's actually worked the other way.
Very interesting. More questions coming in. Dr. Jawad asks, are there any specific guidelines to follow when innovating a soft drink in a safe way? Should you use someone with specific skills to develop your ingredients? Good question.
Yeah, I mean, we'll know from experience when somebody comes and asks us to make a soft drink, what sort of level of processing and what type of processing we'll have to do that drink. It's very important to make sure that when you do that innovation, you get the right level of processing, which is the right for that product. If you don't, for example, if you were doing a glass bottle and you didn't process it in the correct way, you'll get fermentation happen. And this does happen occasionally where a glass bottle will explode on the shelf. Quite, just one after another will explode. A can will. We took one of these cans, not one of these ones, but a can we produced, and I took it off the line before it had been through the pasteurizer. It was full of juice, actually, or it was 50% juice product, which is something you should never. I actually did it because I wanted to take it back to my office. I took it back to my office, and I remember about 3 weeks later, I'd forgotten about this can, and the top blew off in my office. That's what happens if you don't get.
Wow.
Check out what the ingredients are, how you need to process it. So very, very definitely, that's important to get done.
Thank you for that one. Okay. Will Langston, Ops Director at Timpsons, asks, what has been your best and worst moments in business so far? And I suppose we've got this year, which could probably incorporate maybe both of those, but maybe taking the pandemic out of it. Yeah.
Well, I think worst would have been the losing McDonald's. That would have definitely have been the worst one. And that was kind of a lot of, sitting around moping for a short while, before we sort of pulled ourselves together and said, right, we're going to hit it. And there's been so many good moments, actually. It's difficult to pick one out. I think, that's been the roller coaster of it, that I kind of forget the bad moments fairly quickly, and as soon as I can, and actually get on and think of the good ones. But I suppose if I was to pick one, when we and it's a machinery sort of led one. So when we first of all fired up our latest and last production line, which was a hugely fast, and I think it runs at about 36 or 7,000 bottles an hour, and that's quick. I mean, they're coming off like absolute bullets. And when we finally installed that, and it was purring away, and I would say purring because the line was there. There was only about 2 people in the entire building. That's when you think, yep, automation does work.
Nice. And are you one of these people who celebrates each success? Only because I think it was our first talk to kick this off with Rowena from Lush, and she said they're really bad at Lush at celebrating the successes they have. They said, like, I always think pride comes before a fall, and they're always really reticent about celebrating. I'm like, really?
I think it's really important you do celebrate, and I think it's really important that everyone in the whole team. I mean, I would say, we've got a fantastic team here, and I think everyone's invested in it and involved in it. I think it comes a little bit from it being, we are a very rural business. We're out in the middle of the countryside, and everyone really has a tremendously conscientious about it, and I think we need to make sure we do celebrate it often enough. We certainly normally do at our Christmas party. That's normally a place we celebrate it properly.
Nice. Quick question from Jonathan that's followed up his previous question. What was you might have missed the beginning bit, I'm not sure. What was the McDonald's revenue replaced with? Because you mentioned then looking at...
Well, I tell you what happened at that time. It was an explosion in clear flavored drinks. Now you see them on the supermarket shelves all the time, but in those days, in the 90s, clear drinks haven't really been seen much before. I mean, if you bought a Panda Pop, it was sunset yellow, and if you bought a bubble gum, it was bright blue and what have you. So there was an absolute explosion in clear flavored drinks. So, and we'd already got the bottling machine. We just had to get a mixer. So it was one item, a bolt on to the rest of the production line. That meant you could actually, make a soft drink as opposed to just a water. So that was a really important thing that we shifted. When McDonald's went, we shifted and we started doing more and more soft drinks at that point.
Okay. And another question come in from Tony. Biggest frustration right now? I bet you got a few off the back of COVID, but
yeah, I mean, like everyone at the moment, it's got to be. I think, in a way, my biggest frustration at the moment is the way in which generally business, I think, is kind of just like the football that is being. We've been treated appallingly, I think, in many ways over the COVID year that we've had. Also about Brexit. I mean, it's appalling how, in my view, how Brexit has, been landed twice now. We've had to stock up. I mean, at the moment we're taking juice in as quick as we can go from Europe. The second time we've done this this year, just trying to beat because we've had no clarity. That's my biggest frustration. I don't think politicians, they obviously have their own agendas, and I think they see business generally as just this wonderful cash cow that they can sort of lean on whenever they want, however they want. And we here and we're kind of seen by them as being the greedy entrepreneurs. And actually, if if we do well, all of our businesses do well. That means all the people who work for us are in a stable place and a good place,
Yeah.
hopefully enjoying their jobs. And we pay an awful lot of tax back into the system. So I don't think we're a force for bad. We're a force for good, and I just don't feel that. My answer to your question would be just see business as a force for good.
100% agree with you. Will asks, where do you see your biggest opportunity for growth in the next 5 years, William?
Oh, definitely. I think we're going to see a lot of growth in canned products. I think. It's just because cans have become sexy again. I mean, they've been around forever, and they've gone from being really quite boring things, and recently, for whatever reason, I don't quite know why, but they've become really the sexy thing to have. So I think cans will be a big part of our growth. Tetra is well behind, good as well. I mean, we'll keep looking. This is a great thing about soft drinks. You just don't know where that opening is going to come. There could be tomorrow a new product, Alex, and before you know it, you've got another category like Red Bull, energy.
Yeah. Exciting place to be, like you're saying. Look, we're just bringing this to a close. Tom comments, craft beer has gone from bottles and now mostly cans. Thank you, Tom. And your daughter Kate connected us. Interested to know, like with your children, how many of them have you got working in the business, and how much do you now start thinking about future running of the business? What sectors do they want to get involved in? Future planning, those kinds of things.
Well, that's got to come into my thinking now over the next few years. I mean, the one thing I was always pretty, and this is our family farm, as I said earlier, 5th generation. So I'm not I didn't set it up wanting to sell it particularly. I mean, I get ever so many people coming to me all the time to want to buy it, but my sort of view is that I've got to find a way in which the business can grow, and the family can be involved in it if they want to, but it shouldn't be a noose around their neck. They shouldn't feel obliged they have to do it. And to be honest, if they come into the business, they've got to be good. That's the other thing. So I think getting that balance right is going to be something I have to work on over the next few years.
And do you get people? I remember interviewing. That's another Coca-Cola thing. Is interviewing Richard Reed from Innocent and saying, again, virtually inventing a brand new category, getting people, asking to buy your business, asking to buy a percentage of your business, and as that
does happen a lot. And I mean, I don't pursue it because it's time wasting, really, from my point of view. But it's it's something that's, and I think there's probably a lot of people, particularly with COVID at the moment, a lot of shark circling, should we say, feeling there's opportunities out there.
Great. And look, last question then, because we're coming right up to the hour. So really appreciate you taking an hour of your Thursday evening with us. Appreciated. Violet asks, where can we buy Radnor infusions currently? That's actually my wife's favourite. We discovered them in Cornwall on a beach in the summer, funnily enough. So she asks, where can we buy the Radnor infusions currently, your cans?
Yeah, well, we've got them online with Amazon, but we've got it going around. We do probably about 200 wholesalers around the country, and they are generally, so they find their way into all kinds of different areas. Don't want to say anything too soon, but we've got good feelers out in amongst the supermarkets. But as I said earlier, you know, that's always a slightly slower process.
Yeah, yeah, understood. Well, look, thank you
Thank
100%
you, Alex.
for doing this.
Really enjoyed it.
Really
And
appreciate it. It's been
let's hope
great.
we do well on Saturday, eh?
I really hope so. I really hope so. Give us a bit of positivity to last us through. I mean, in Wales, you're out of your lockdown, aren't you? In England, we've still got a little bit of lockdown, and then who knows what it's going to look like the other side of Christmas, really?
Yeah.
Nobody still knows.
Okay. All right. Take
Brilliant.
care. Bye now.
Thank you very much indeed, and thank you everyone for your questions. Been amazing, loads of questions. So thank you everybody for joining in. William, to exit, bottom right hand corner of the screen is like a exit sign with a door, white door.
Take care.
Thanks so much. Cheers everybody. Bye bye now. Back tomorrow for a bonus day, everybody. So join us at 12.